think we were, yeah, thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Sorry about that delay. If anyone was watching us online, we're back now, and we're still on liaison groups. We are just at the point where we had a mover and a seconder. I think I can't remember if we've had debate yet or not. But the mover is welcome to.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to say, what I'd like to say is, over the last 12 months in particular, the council's has been making a genuine effort to get close to the communities, and that was expressed in the development of the Priority Liaison Group, and we're looking to roll that model out across the Takiwa and between flood and drainage groups, and perhaps later on, river management maybe groups, and then with your catchment group networks with OCC. We're working really hard, and we're achieving to get close to our communities and getting direct feedback. So I'd just like to mention clause 15 in the paper, which sets out the role of the liaison groups. The role of liaison groups is to discuss capital and operating matters, funding, strategic issues, and future work programs relating to the schemes. The liaison groups provide an effective communication forum between scheme ratepayers, stakeholders, and the ORC, and that's the way we would like it to happen. I think that's an excellent briefing for a liaison group to work to. So support the motion.
Councillor Wilson.
I just like to get the paper. 6 years in the making.
That's right. I just think it might be worth recognising both of the councillors who moved and seconded, actually. Firstly, to Councillor Wilson, who raised the idea exactly quite a long time ago. Did you just say 6 years?
I think it's one of the first things.
Yeah. So re-establishing liaison groups, and credit where credit is due to Councillor Wilson on pushing that issue. And also to Councillor McCall, who has been our rep on the Tyree liaison group. And yeah, the learning that we've had there as well, and just reiterating those words of how much we can gain from the two-way relationship and learning, fostering the relationship so that practically day to day as well, we've got people to call on, and again, two-way, really important. Establishing that connection, also opening that discussion too that we want to be having with communities, addressing the difficult trade-offs sometimes of protection and cost, and just making sure that we've got that balance right as well as all those other jobs that have already been spoken about and are in the paper. So yeah, really exciting moment. Anyone else want to debate? No, I'll put it then. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thanks heaps. 10.4 is total mobility. Welcome, Lorraine. And just getting Anisha established at the front there. Author here is Laura Faulkner. Welcome. Always have to hit the ground running, don't you? You've got to run up to the table and then we're straight into it. So no moment to catch your breath. Who would like to introduce this one? Anita, that's you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So just a recap of why we're here. So earlier this year we brought you a paper when we forecasted over expenditure in the now previous financial year, so the 24-25 financial year, and committed to come back to you with some options and some further understanding. Total mobility is a really important part of our public transport network, and you heard about that earlier today. It's a really important functional product for those members of our community to enable them to carry out their day-to-day activities both independently and with dignity. The demand for total mobility has increased, and some of the reasons we understand are that NZTA provided some additional subsidy, so an additional 25%, which meant that the cost to the passenger was reduced to 25% of the total trip. That obviously made it a more attractive option Some of the other community-based or central government funded options for transport have been removed or reduced, which has also increased the demand. And also there's no cap on how many trips a person can take. And it's probably the right thing. We don't restrict ourselves in terms of how often we get out and about. So we undertook to take a bit more of a look into where we've got to, both at the funding and expenditure side. Where we've come to assumes a static demand, so no increase in total mobility services, which doesn't actually reflect the pattern of increased demand that we have seen. We're budgeting a $2.8 million over expenditure over the 3-year life cycle of this LTP and RLTP. However, we are anticipating we will get some SURF funding. We haven't been guaranteed that, both in terms of getting it and or quantum. Whatever SURF funding we do get will reduce that $2.8 million. That's the best position that we can get to today with the understanding that we have. And then the other point I'd say is this is not just an Otago issue. The scale of the amount of budget shortfall is different across the country, but every PTA is experiencing similar issues in terms of demand on the service and funding shortfalls. So happy to answer any questions. Laura knows the technical detail in and out. So between the two of us, we hope to provide you the answers you need.
Councillor Laws.
The information that's missing for me is, as I understand reading the paper, that the change in government policy led to the greater use of total mobility because the funding constraint that might have limited choices had dissipated away, leading to more demand. So as I read this paper, that's correct, yeah? That's the way, okay.
Yes.
Can I understand, please, because it's perfectly relevant to the funding decision, have you done a breakdown of what the costs are per ward? So what are they in Dunedin, Molyneux, Dunstan, and Mauraki?
Yeah, so we have got an average fare per district.
No, I was thinking more of the quantum cost.
Oh, no, I don't have that readily available.
Well, because if the argument is going to be that we're going to step into the funding, then we're going to want to know what that rates increase is. Now, I suspect, because of the ageing problem and the problem, I would suspect that there was more disability, possibly per capita in Dunedin. Don't hold me to that, but it's unlikely that the greater cost will be sitting within the city confines of Dunedin. Would that be a reasonable expectation?
I think that's a fair assumption. We've certainly got more providers and more users in Dunedin, so I think that's fair.
Per capita.
Yes.
So assuming that, when we come to make a funding decision, as we inevitably have to, because it's this huge quantum of money, was it $2.7 million or $2.8 million? When we come to make that decision, I'm assuming it's going to work sort of roughly the same way as public transport, which is you're going to put the cost onto the community of those ratepayers. Well, that's an option anyhow. It's a better way of putting it. So that's why I quite like that cost breakdown, because folk, can I just say, in my neck of the woods, who are already paying for public transport that they don't receive, would be doubly basically hit if the suggestion was that this was going to come out of general rates.
Yeah, so at the moment, total mobility is funded out of general rates. Obviously, if you direct us to go and do some work, we can look at the ratio of where that falls, and then you've got that decision in terms of how you manage it if you choose to, rates cover the difference.
And can you give me, so when I'm looking at this, on page 60 of my notes, clause 13, you've got a cost there of 4.66 million for 3-year funding for non-hoist trips, of which the ORC roughly pays 1.9. The 2.9 that you're talking about in clause 16, is that in addition to the 1.8 or inclusive of it?
In addition to, so what paragraph 13 is telling you is we've got $4.6 million across the 3 years. And we spent this year 2.8. So 3 lots of 2.8. In essence, we'll run out of money at around about March next year. And so we'll have part of year 2 and all of year 3 where we're short of funding.
Now can I go to your options? Your suggestion is option 2 for quarter 1 and 2, 25-26. So that would mean that we were going to have to find an extra 2.87, or is that 2.87 altogether?
So we have enough funding for most of this financial year, not all of this financial year. So that would allow us to continue, and then we'd need to come back to you with some options, some more options for year 3.
And run me past surf funding again. How are we going to get that when it's meant for climate change? I'm struggling.
So the way that NZTA have allocated it is that it contributes to the community connect aspect of transport. It's an NZTA funding decision. All PTAs receive it. So you'd need to talk to them about why they've allocated it this way. We're the grateful recipient.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Tane.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. Really hard space, really hard decisions, and makes an amazing difference to the people who get that service. Now, the one option that isn't in there, or maybe I've missed it, is who is eligible for total mobility funding, and it may not actually reduce the cost, but it may. So we've got people who get on a bus, and some days they're just not feeling up to getting on a bus, and they may get total mobility, or they may need to go somewhere that the bus doesn't suit. And I sort of get all of that. There is some people who are absolutely dependent on it, and the problem in making some of these choices, if we were to look at any of the other some of the other options, would be how do we, I shouldn't say the expression, but skin the cat a different way. And so what are the choices of eligibility for total mobility that we as a council have? Just understanding that.
So the eligibility criteria is a policy that NZTA designs, and it doesn't change regionally. And that was partly to make sure, like nationally, we had these consistencies between all of the regions. So we don't have any scope to change the eligibility criteria. And I wouldn't think there's much pressure of people who are ineligible trying to access the scheme.
It's not that they're ineligible, it's that they are less needy than some, and that's I absolutely, so that's why I started my comment that they do need it. So the next question is, the only other thing we can do is not to provide a service at all, which is a pretty blunt instrument and would be a torturous one to even consider.
Yes, and we would recommend, if that was the line, that there'd be significant engagement with the sector.
But I wouldn't go there. I wasn't meaning, but so it's a fairly, we haven't got many levers.
Yeah, it's quite limited in levers what we can action.
Yep. Councillor Whelan, known.
Yeah, I was just wondering around the $50 cap and suggestions of potentially reducing that cap as one of the future options to investigate. So I think the report mentioned the average was $30. So presumably reducing the cap is not gonna.
If we were
Sorry.
if we were to reduce the cap, it would have to then be below the $30 mark to see a budgetary, like a budget change.
Okay, yeah, because my question was just going to be how many of the trips, so kind of what portion of the trips are reaching that sort of $50 cap. Doesn't sound like any.
Well, some trips are above, and there'll be some users who frequently, people are more like in Wanaka and Queenstown, the trips tend to be longer, or at least Wanaka definitely longer.
But to save us any money, that cap would have to be drastically reduced. Yeah. Okay.
Councillor Known.
Yeah, my question just relates to paragraph 11 and 12. Laura, I just wondered, is there any up-to-date on MAT or NZTA about their expected timelines regarding the review. I suppose the question is around, are we just looking at, the third and fourth quarter of the 25-26 year, or can we lock that in, so to speak?
So we don't have much visibility over when that's going to appear, unfortunately, and the challenge we have is the longer it takes to materialise, the less flexibility we have in terms of what we can do. And we're not even sure what outcomes it will deliver.
You just added, Andrew, that this is now getting a significant amount of focus at a number of levels, from CEs through general managers through transport teams, and then with NZTA and even ministers as well. So that doesn't necessarily guarantee it's a quick decision, but I think people are aware that there are councils who are about to be put in incredibly difficult positions, which is what Kate was referring to before. So I would hope that, because there are a number of parts of the country dealing with the same issue, that we will see some urgency in terms of some of the decisions that need to come down from government and agencies.
Could I out to, sorry, is that on?
Sorry.
Yeah, we
It was
just.
sort of on the same thing, because
Yeah,
I
that's
hadn't
okay.
finished the same question. There are 8,660,
Mike.
sorry,
Yeah, thanks.
there are 8,660, it says in your paper, eligible total mobility customers.
So that's the number of people that have a card currently, an active card.
Right. So what percentage of people use the service? Do we know?
So that would be people that are using the service.
So that's 8,660 are using the service.
Because they wouldn't get a card if they weren't going to use it.
Well, not
Yeah,
necessarily.
You're right, that could be
Yeah.
different, slightly
That is-
stats, is that right?
But that's
Anita?
the active users, that's
Oh,
active
right.
cards.
You wouldn't.
So these are people who use it. Okay, all right. I don't know where the service, this paper doesn't tell me where the service is provided. So there must be bits for all of Otago. I'm struggling to see if total mobility services are available in, say,
Tibet
Vancouver
Valley, yeah.
or Alexandra, or,
Could
so,
answer
so
that, yeah.
where are they provided, these services?
So we currently have operators in Dunedin, Queenstown, Wanaka, Balclutha, Oahu.
So if I'm disabled outside of those services, those areas that you've just mentioned, I don't receive a service.
Not through total mobility.
Thank you, councillor Somerville.
Thanks. Look, I wonder if you could please just help clarify for me the differences around the funding issues in options 1 and 2, because I can't quite work it out. And I know we are all waiting for the results of the NZTA review, including funding.
So with option 1, we would be looking to try and reduce the spend. So option 1 is wait for the review, anticipating that it will have some levers that are significant enough for us to adjust the pattern of spending, and then come back to you. Option 2 is to continue offering the service as it currently is, noting that that might cost another just under $3 million to cover. So option 2 is continue with the existing pattern of service.
Right, and the staff recommendation and recommendation 3 is that we, let's see, or maybe I'm just repeating what's there. Option 2, basically until the end of this year, and then investigate other ways of what we might do basically from the start of next year. Is that right?
Yeah, so, and we would need to start that work now and come back to you early next year with what we were able to do, depending on the levers we have available.
Yeah, and the uncertainty of not knowing when we'll actually get the results of that review and what will be in it.
Yes, and by that time we'd be able to give Councillor Laws the granularity he's looking for in terms of spread across the region, and we should also have clarity on the SURF funding in terms of quantum as well, so we'd have a better understanding of the actual financial position, which may change the options that we bring to you.
Okay, thank you.
No other questions? Somebody want to move something?
I'll move it.
Councillor Laws, and then Councillor Weir. Oh, did you have a question?
No, I was just gonna.
Okay, ask him what he was moving. Yeah, sorry, and then we'll check whether you'd like to second it. Fair enough. Councillor Laws, what are you moving?
All four.
Good one, yep.
However, I'd like to add a fifth, if I may. And that is that council, that's just what you said at the end. That staff be requested to bring back a council with further detail for a decision prior to the end of the year. End of the calendar year. And it's because you're only, this is only till the 31st of December.
Yeah, I suppose the challenge there, I understand why, is whether we have decisions or direction from NZTA Ministry of Transport.
You'll know by then.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
But if
look,
not-
I'm comfortable, and if we're at a point where we don't quite have that information, we'll just provide that update and delay it until the new
Yeah,
year.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yep.
Yeah, cool.
You okay with capturing that? Yeah, might as well share it while we're going. Did you capture what that one said? Yeah, you're happy to second that? Okay, Councillor Laws, do you want to speak?
Nope.
No. Councillor Weir?
No.
Yeah, you're okay? You can come back to it anyway. We have got some people that would like to speak. Councillor Wilson?
No, I'm supportive of all of this. I do think we possibly have a lobbying role here. And having listened to Christopher Ford today, but also having heard the submissions on the regional passenger transport plan and the compelling cases that they put for the service and how absolutely vital it is. I do wonder whether the mover and seconder would like to put something about lobbying and given some case studies of how little this is, but how significant it is to those users.
Can I just answer that question really quickly? I think you're on the right lines, but we don't have enough detail yet, particularly, I think, to be able to make the lobbying case other than that is generally being made across the nation. I'd love to get more detail of this. I don't think our lobbying role will cease. You're lobbying at a national level, aren't you? Yeah. So let's wait for that paper and then we can go specific, but they're not going to make an exception for us.
No, I'm talking.
Thank you. We're in debate. So, yep. Councillor Noon, were you next? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I look at my only comment would be that we need to deal with this particular issue in a way that we cause the least amount of disruption to the most vulnerable people in our community. So, I think the steps that we're making, we've really got no choice. We can't read the tea leaves. We don't understand what MOT are going to come back with. We don't understand what NZTA are going to come back with. So this is the best we can do at this time.
Thank you. Councillor Stumble.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I'll be supporting these with some reservations. We heard at Public Forum from Chris Ford how important this service is and his wishes what we will do. And I'm pleased that we are recommending here that at least till the end of the year, we are continuing on with the current rates. And I guess I hope very much that the NZTA review of funding will allow those current rates to continue into next year. We don't know that though. And I guess I note from this that any changes to those rates will be coming back to council for final sign off. So we do have a final decision there. But as Andrew says, we must be very, very careful to do all we can for this vulnerable section of our population. Thanks.
Councillor Metham.
Well, look, I'm pleased that we're in a position where we can actually fund the deficit of this expenditure for total mobility. It was disappointing that our hands were tied quite significantly when we were looking at the fare for 5 to 12-year-olds in our public transport. So it's certainly good to be able to be generous in this area.
Just wasn't sure if you wanted to come back to you, councillor Ware. Yep.
Definitely, may as well just reinforce my support for the total mobility scheme and our position here today to, you know, continue the funding for the service as is, although I'm nervous about our next steps at the end of the year and hold some reservations around those other options that we'll be investigating. I think, you know, we should be celebrating this as a success of the scheme and its popularity and the impact it has been able to have on the users that use it around the region, and instead we have to you know, discuss if that means that we have to cut it down because it's too popular. So kind of resent the position that we're in, but very supportive of the scheme itself, as Councillor Wilson said through the hearings process. For the regional public transport plan, you know, we heard from heaps of people in the community about how this scheme and in particular that rise to the 75% subsidy was the difference in many cases between them being able to leave the house or not. So yeah, very keen for us to keep doing this work.
Okay. We have up on the screen for anyone that's watching or for our councillors, just to be sure on what they're voting on. We've got that additional 5 there. Should be pretty clear to everyone. So I'm going to put it all in favour. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Let's push on through and see if we can get to the end of the council meeting. If we don't get to the end of the council meeting, we're going to be coming back and revisiting some council meeting after the finance committee tomorrow. So let's see how far we can get. 10.5 is legislative fix on the water plan. It's not called that though. Amendment to the water plan to give effect to the legislative change to the Resource Management Act 1991. Welcome everyone. Intro to this one, probably we don't need a huge amount, but if you'd like to, I think councillors are well aware of this issue, but always a public record as well, so we don't mind if there's an intro.
Thanks for that. I think, yeah, as you said, we're all pretty familiar with this now, so happy to just take paper as read and answer questions about
one. Councillor Wilson.
I appreciate why this would not have been in a recommendation, but would it be appropriate to thank the staff at the MEP for their assistance in this as part of this motion? I think it's a very great fix that it will alleviate and has also allowed a lot of relief in the community. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if you'd thank the staff or just thank the ministers or... Yeah, anyway, there's some thinking and yeah, that's good.
But we don't want to just lobby. My point is we just don't want to lobby.
That's right.
To have gratitude when we get it.
Let's have that and come back to that in debate. Yep. Right, sorry, I'll hands, Councillor Ware, then Councillor Laws.
Yes, raising a question. Raised earlier around the plan stop. Just not to advocate either way, but to ask clarification of whether the plan stop means that we're able to continue the actual planning work up until the point of notification for, you know, things like our land and water, draft land and water regional plan or plan. So sort of in the background.
Yeah, so the plan stop does apply only to up to the point of notification. I guess the question would be, you know, to what extent you would want to do a lot of work getting to that point without being very confident that you would be able to make that decision. And there is exemption criteria in the Act about what the minister would consider for, you know, an exemption to the plan stop. Yeah, so but those are quite tight and mostly around development and particular statutory requirements. So
And just add to that, when the minister spoke on this, he was very clear that he was putting the stop in place because they are anticipating significant system change. So we want to be very confident that any work we did do was still going to be useful for us under whatever that new system looks like. So a lot of the work that we currently do to develop a plan for notification under the current RM system.
Just noting at this point that Councillor Wilson's back from the table.
Just realised I should probably be thinking.
So I think the point is that while it doesn't stop us doing that work up to the point of notification, we want to be very confident that that work was still going to add value under the new system, because the minister was very clear that that was his reason for.
Just one clarification.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Sorry, I've got a wee queue of people here. We're up to Councillor Known, Councillor Laws, Meekum, then Known.
Can I just, it's just a question. When you say that the extension applies to approximately 400 water permits, I assume most of those are farmers? Yeah? Not all of them, but most of them?
A significant number will be, because a lot of them are the deemed permit replacements, but there are a number in there that aren't farmers as well. I don't have the stats.
So what would they be doing? What would the ones that aren't farmers be doing?
So other key abstractors would be local authorities, for example, anyone doing drinking water.
Right. Okay. And then in clause 15 for managing rural diffuse discharges. Now I've read a lot of commentary in the last couple of weeks that will lead to waterways being contaminated in the Otago region as a consequence of that being those rural diffuse discharges being extended. Could I get some commentary on that, please?
Absolutely, through the chair. So what this does is extends the existing regime that we're currently operating under. What has changed since we proposed bringing this in 2026 is Plan Change 8 rules, which picked up some of the discharges that were not being managed previously. So it does just continue the status quo in terms of what's happening with additional rule support through Plan Change 8.
So there's nothing in this that would make water quality necessarily worse?
Not necessarily, no.
Thanks. Councillor Meekum, then Known.
That was exactly my question. Just the impact on our environment for having these amendments struck out. And we're confident that there is no impact on the environment.
We're confident that this will retain the existing status quo, notwithstanding that the plan is old and does need refreshed under whatever the new legislation looks like. So things will come in the future, but with Plan Change 8 and the status quo, there is some safeguards.
If that was the case, then why did we have to ask for the strikeout of these diffuse charges?
So what we didn't want is for these rules to come into effect, because a review found that they were hard to enforce. We could have been permitted one day and needed a consent the other, so they were uncertain and ambiguous. And the plan was to extend them out for the new plan to come in, but also to have Plan Change 8, which picked up some of the diffuse discharges, things like earthworks, are now managed through a separate rule in the plan.
Thanks. Yep. We've had some papers before on the issue, so we can go back to them if we need to and study those again. Councillor, who was it? No, yeah.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Paragraphh 17, 18 and 19 just talks about the updating of the existing consents, 400 odd. I assume, and we, ORC, have a 2-year period to do that. And I assume that those 400 consents are spread over the actual date they were issued, it's probably spread over 18 months or something like that. So I assume the 5 years kicks in from the date of the when the consent actually expires. Is that correct for each individual one rather than a generic date?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So Yeah, so just to clarify, in case there was a bit of shorthand between us, that effectively what that does is for every consent that is currently in place, the expiry date that was there will be extended by 5 years from the original date. So there's not a single date like 31st of December 2030 or whatever it is. It's actually each consent gets its own date.
Thank you.
We get a huge, massive load to process all at once, otherwise.
That's what we're trying to avoid.
Yep. No other questions? Somebody want to move the recommendations there? Councillor Noon, seconded. I can second them. Did you want to speak to it, Councillor Noon? No. Anyone else? No. Yeah. So basically, there isn't really a decision here because we need to implement the law. It's great that we will manage to work with the government to sort out this short-term solution. I think rather than a win or a celebration, they do provide short-term solutions. So they provide some short-term certainty, which is really important and doesn't frustrate people with unnecessary consents, which is really important. But there isn't mid to long term certainty, particularly for the water permit holders for water allocation. It's hard to bank on short term consents such as these. So we're looking for a longer term solution in the end. Same with how we work with the diffuse discharges as well, which is really important to quality of water. But yeah, it's great to have that acknowledgement that there are rules in place, that there is a water plan in place, and there are some provisions there that mean that we can look after waterways and at the moment. Looking into the future though, we've got some changes of legislation that are coming up. We've even got farm plans coming up soon, hopefully, and we'll be able to hopefully do some work there as well that creates a little bit more certainty in planning for landowners. But yeah, really, really pleased to have been able to get to this solution. And coming back to a comment that was made earlier, a big thanks to MFE staff, a big thanks to our ministers for listening, particularly to Honourable Penny Simmons, who listened to our council here and worked with us to come to this solution. Also to our staff who presented this proactively and actually came up with the wording as well, essentially. So huge thanks there too. And that is probably it. So you can put it now, unless anyone else has decided they do want to enter debate after that. Okay, we'll put it all in favour, aye, against, carried. Thanks. Ten point six Jobs for Nature project update.
This is just for nothing, yeah?
Yeah, it's a noting, exactly.
In that case, I'll so move.
Finish before 5.
And I look forward to reading this at great depth sometime in the future.
I think you're acknowledging that you've read it in great depth and you really enjoyed it. That's great.
Sorry, that's
But we'll leave
what I meant to say.
To our staff to introduce, because this has been a massive project and one that we're really proud of. So we want to give it a bit of space so that it can actually present the report here, which is really important. It summarises what we've achieved in this catchment. So yeah, over to you guys.
Thank you. I'll try and be quick. I do have a couple of things to say. So this paper provides a final update on the 2 Jobs for Nature projects that have been delivered over the past 4 years, Toitū Te Hakapupu and Maintaining the Games. The Toitū Te Hakapupu project in partnership with Katihui Rapa ki Puketeraki, has achieved outstanding results from planting 92,000 plants, 39 kilometres of fencing installed, restoring fish passage, and restoring fish passage are key highlights. Importantly, this project has been as much about relationships as outcomes. Landowners, Runaka, East Otago Catchment Group, and the wider community have worked together to create long-lasting environmental benefits. The Maintaining the Gains project with QE2 Trust and Okaha has also exceeded expectations as detailed in the report. Together, these projects show what can be achieved when council, mana whenua and communities work in partnership, not just improving the environment today, but setting up the foundations for intergenerational care for Otago's landscapes and waterways. So on behalf of council staff, I'd like to thank Katihui Rapa ki Puketeraki, Okaha, QE2 Trust, East Otago Catchment Group, landowners and community members for their commitment, energy and vision to help deliver these projects. These projects are an excellent example of what we can all achieve together. I'd also like to thank all the staff who have been involved in the development and delivery of this project. Special thanks to Melanie White, who is online, and Soraya Engelken, who have worked with dedication to support delivery of these outcomes. They've shown care and commitment, and they've also shown they have also shown care and commitment to the work that they've undertaken, and that has been outstanding. Special thanks also to Rob Phillips, who is online, and Katarina Ruxel, who can't be here today. They have been the co-chairs of the Te Hakapupu Partnership Group, so we'd like to thank them for their time and commitment to ensuring that this project has been as successful as it has been. So that's it from me.
Thank you very much, Libby. Yeah, big welcome to Rob and to Mel, who I failed to mention at the beginning. Fantastic to see you there.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Either of you wanted to talk at the beginning of this momentous occasion too. We do have a little bit of time. Yeah. No.
Yeah, can I just, maybe is an opportunity just for me to make a couple of comments?
Yeah, I thought you looked like you might be poised, ready to do that, Rob. So yeah, you're welcome to.
Yeah, look, from my perspective, it's been a really positive project. It's had a real focus on I mean, as has been outlined by Libby, but a real focus on community, on farmer buy-in and ownership, and on working with the wider community and also with Puketeraki. It's really achieved some whole lot of things, and that's partly due to that buy-in that's been developed, to getting stuff done. You know, the significant planting, the fencing, and the sediment traps, just that, and also building capacity. And building a huge knowledge sort of library that's going to be really useful going forward. The partnership with Puketeraki has been really positive, and that's been well navigated by the team that's been leading this, and so well done to them. But actually, we're changing the landscape there. The landscape in this catchment is now going to be quite different in the future, and it's going to be more resilient. It's had this real focus on sediment, which is the problem. Sediment's the enemy, as some of our team, of our leadership group would be saying. So, so just a big well done, and I think it's been really positive. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any questions, Councillor Weir? Then no.
Yeah, so just on the relationships that have been, built and strengthened through these projects, are we anticipating that future community environmental work, like any work that might come out of the large scale environmental fund, for example, will be able to build on these relationships and all the scientific work that's been done through these projects?
Mel, would you like to comment on the succession plan and how you see that playing out?
Sure, kia ora, from Vietnam. Yeah, it's nice to be here, to be able to be here, modern technology, hey? So, as part of the finishing of the Toitū Te Hakapupu project, we went through a process with the community in the Runaka and East Otago catchment group to develop a succession plan for this project. I think that's answering your question. So the momentum and the relationships that have been built throughout this project, it is hoped that there will be a group of people who will carry that forward. They did develop a catchment action plan, and there are actions in that catchment action plan that the community and East Otago catchment group and the Runaka can progress on. But it really is up to them now to come together and take up that energy. And we've supported them as much as we can with a succession plan. And I think the idea is that they'll get together and have a meeting and decide how to go forward from there.
We'll also continue to support them through our catchment advisors as well.
Councillor Noon.
Thanks, Madam Chair. With regards to Hakapupu, I had a question around sediment traps, and Rob mentioned the importance for this particular catchment to try and deal with sediments. So my question's around on paragraph 28. It talks about under B, sediment traps, and the last sentence says sediment traps will be monitored by landowners and catchment advisors, and I just wondered why maintained is not in there as well, because it talks about in the report, was it 1,000 cubic meters or something out of the sediment traps that were established, and it was 10 of them or whatever, and I was thinking, well, it would be really important to maintain those, or someone has the responsibility, and I imagine it's the landowner, but had that been thought about?
Yes, absolutely, it's been thought about. So the monitoring will help us determine how often those need to be maintained. And if it is something that is required on a long-term basis, we could potentially help out landowners to ensure that the catchment health is maintained. That's something that we need to consider as we monitor them. And we'll be monitoring those alongside our science team as well to ensure that they are functioning as we expect.
Can I follow that up with another question? Yeah, and also the 10 sediment traps that were established, was there a resource consent required, or were they able to get through the threshold under permitted activity? There's about 10 different conditions that they've got to get through, but because they're either in a waterway or discharging to a waterway, did they require consents?
I'll let Mel comment on that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So these are ephemeral streams, and this work was done at the end of the summer before last, which is an extremely dry summer. And we went through a process with consents and compliance to assess the ability to do the work without consent, and it was decided that it could be done without consent because there was no running water at the time.
Well done.
Councillor McCall.
Couple of questions, just following up from Councillor Noon, just regarding ongoing maintenance. Ongoing maintenance for sediment traps, but also I think clause 37 mentions ongoing maintenance for the plantings as well. Just a little bit of concern. There's one thing monitoring and ongoing, and there's another thing committing to actually doing the work, i.e. cleaning sediment traps, or actually doing the maintenance on behalf of landowners. Can you, what is the intention there?
So for the planting, the intention is that we support maintenance for the first 2 years, and it also depends on the individual agreements that we've got with landowners. So some of them would have taken maintenance as part of the in-kind contribution to the project. In terms of sediment traps, I probably didn't word that quite right before. There is no specific intention to undertake the maintenance ourselves, but we need to monitor how quickly they're filling up and that they're working appropriately based on the design we've developed in collaboration with landowners, because we don't want to give them something that they then need to have changed. So we have a responsibility to make sure that what we've supported putting in is the right thing to do, and so that monitoring will help inform whether we need to do any maintenance going forward, and that would be worked into annual plan or long-term plan budgets as required. There is no intention to do that at this point.
Awesome. I've got two more questions.
Yep.
Another one is, in your 27 table with your spending, and you've got your MEP claimed in ORC in kind. So I assume the ORC in kind is pretty much staff time and perhaps some small resources. I was just wondering what pool of funds that comes from. Is that like from the generally rated fund, or is it from the river management fund, or is it from catchment advisors fund, or?
So in terms of in kind, that would come from, if it was staff time, it will come across the different budgets. So we've had science staff inputting in, and their time will come in kind, so it'll be however their budgets are rated. But in terms of maintenance and any money that we're contributing to the project, that comes from the land and water implementation budget, which sits within the environmental implementation team.
Yeah, so there's pretty much the staff time is most likely generated.
Yes.
That's fine. And I've got one more question. I've got a comment to make later on, but I actually really enjoyed flicking through all the pages in the fish passage report, and it's like 25 different ways of allowing a fish to swim uphill, and it was really quite awesome. So I've just got a quick question I'd just like to ask. There's been a lot of work done on there, and are we seeing any measurable increase in fish activity upstream of some of these culverts?
Yes, so we've received a draft report from Katihui Puketeraki around monitoring whitebait populations in the area. The observations they've made is that there's now 95% of the waterways are accessible for whitebait, which is awesome. And what we've seen, I think the number was 14,000% increase in whitebait numbers, which is monitoring. So they did a baseline study last year, and the one this year has shown a 14,000% increase.
That's pretty awesome, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Right.
newsworthy.
Councillor Somerville.
Thanks. The nature-based solutions reports, of which there are a few there, where do they fit into the whole big picture here, and how's that information going to be used?
I'll comment on that first, and then Mel can jump in. But we've got a paper coming to the Science and Resilience Committee meeting on the 3rd of September, which is specifically on nature-based solutions. So we can dive into that a little bit deeper when we go there on next week. Is there anything you want to add, Mel?
No, that's exactly what I would say is that the full paper on nature-based solutions is going to the Science and Resilience Committee. Yeah. And it relates, was your question about how it relates to the Jobs for Nature funding?
Well, it was, I guess, asking how that information is going to be used, but maybe we find that out next week.
Yeah, we'll discuss that.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
No other questions, I don't think. Recommendations are there. Somebody want to, yeah, Councillor Noon, seconded Councillor McCall. Councillor Noon.
I just really want to, I suppose, we've got obviously two projects here to Hakapupu and maintaining the gains, and I suppose it's the important message here is the ability to collaborate with their partners, their stakeholders, landowners, staff contribution. It's been a great team effort, and you can never really say COVID brought much goodwill. However, this was one of the results of COVID, this funding coming through to local government. So in an odd sort of way, that's why this has occurred. It might have taken a lot longer to actually get these sorts of projects either up and running or achieve these environmental benefits that have already, I imagine, starting to kick in. And I think there's some great examples between Waikawai and Palmerston in terms of Te Hakapupu, where it's a great advert for what can be done in and around waterways. You know, the fencing off, the planting, Yeah, it's just great, the collaboration, as I say, and yeah, long may it continue.
Thank you. Right, councillor McCall as a seconder, then everyone else, yep.
Oh, I'd just like to say a couple of words as well. It's, it's follow up from Andrew, the Trials for Nature has brought some good stuff into our area, and this is one of the good stories, which is really excellent to see. And probably for me, I'm really pleased to see there's a succession plan put in place for ongoing stuff. And part of that succession plan is also the small integrated catchment management program that the group put together. I may have a couple of questions later on around that, but I was really quite impressed reading, and I've actually read it a couple of times. And the simplicity of the plan that's come together, and it starts off with a simple vision of flourishing catchment and community, and what more, what better vision can we really have? And then it's just got four simple small visions or four outcomes that you want to achieve. One is like ensuring that the waterways and estuaries are healthy, the biodiversity is thriving, male and female values are recognised and upheld, and productive land supports the community. So I was really quite impressed with how that was developed, and I guess the key now is they've got a bit of a blueprint that's been put together that can fold into a bigger picture integrated catchments, but it's also one that community can speak to and can be proud of and can work and have got a direction for their future. Each one of those outcomes is what we're trying to say is backed up with about 4 or 5 actions each, and very disruptive actions. So it's sort of set out there in a nice roadmap for people to get that the community can go forward, and then they can work together to start to achieve those outcomes for themselves and for the betterment of their environment. So very supportive. Thank you very much for the work for the staff, and particularly for the community and landowners and the local mana whenua representatives, and to yourself, Rob, getting to the finish line and setting it up for the future. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. I just want to thank, I have to acknowledge the terrible thing that I don't go on this road. I go north via Brisbane and Dunbank, and I go south the other way. And so I haven't been past it recently, but I have to say that I've heard a lot about it, and that really excites me. And so talking to what Andrew said, congratulations. If the picture paints 1,000 words, you're getting a really good message out there. There are some parties, however, that haven't been thanked, and I just think, again, we could be acknowledging MFP and the ratepayers of New Zealand, and who contributed substantially to this project. And I think it's really mindful that we do that, because it's had a big effect. It has come at a substantial cost, and we need to acknowledge that, because the expectation is that we can keep these things going and how slowly these things ramp up, but they deliver really well in the end, and then they fall off a cliff. And this whole idea of doing things in 3 years is really fraught, and I appreciate everyone who has been involved, because I know what that is like, finishing off projects now in a similar vein, how tough that is, and I just want to consider our role as long-term funders, or just helping those things get through, and why we supported the large infrastructure fund, or the large project fund earlier in the year, because these things do make a big difference. So I think it's important that we look at those other parties that have been part of it, and thank the MFB staff. I know it was tortuous doing their MFB reconciliations for everyone involved in getting those things through, but it was a great learning curve that's had really good outcomes. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Mepham.
Look, this is the reason I actually stood for council 3 years ago, just to see this sort of improvement in our environment. We've also seen it at Thompson's Creek, at Tomahawk, and also down near the Kaitangata, I've forgotten the name of the lake there. I just want to encourage this council to do more of this sort of thing. It is progressive, it's visible, it's innovative, it encourages community to be involved. And it was good being involved in the planting day, Ellen, when we were up there a few weeks ago with staff. And the flow-through effect of the cascading of all of this makes this world a better place. So just more of this, please.
Councillor Forbes.
Same message, glimmer of hope on a not so great horizon, and fantastic work. I don't know a lot about this. I have seen it in parts of it, but I see the same things going up in the headwaters as well. And this collaborative approach is just amazing. And I just hope we can get solid funding in place, which probably comes from the people who are adding to the problems. And I hope somewhere down the line that we can find a way to do that. But fantastic work. Thank you.
Councillor Laws
I
is
wasn't gonna say
stoked and
anything.
really waiting for us
Well, that's
to
prompted me
thank
into it.
everyone for the report and all the material that he's read there so thoroughly.
Oh, yeah,
and-
yeah, that's right, that's right.
Yeah.
Listen, at the end of the day, all this was made possible because the government decided to make a crap load of funding possible, thinking that there would be mass unemployment in New Zealand and that green jobs were better than no jobs at all, in fact, would have a positive benefit to the environment. That Treasury advice turned out to be wrong, brilliantly wrong, and $66 billion worth of extra government funding, most of which wasn't required, has led in part to our feeling of lethargy now and a downturn of an economy. If we are going to do this work, it requires money. And the only source of money that can possibly come in the term of this council, or which hasn't got very much longer, or the next one, is from the ratepayers of Otago. And I have to say, the ratepayers of Otago do not have a great appetite for an increase in their rates. So I just wanted to bring that, air of harsh reality to this particular conversation, because if good works require money, and the money has got to come from people who are currently struggling to pay their current rate demands at both district, city and regional level. I think to increase the burden at this time would be most inopportune. I accept the good value that it's been made from here, but I think you do need to treat this as a one-off rather than an ongoing commitment to providing funding. This can only come from central government and nothing will be coming anytime soon. Sorry to say.
Thanks, Councillor Laws. Just reminding, we did talk about it just before, but we have got a large-scale environmental fund that we're establishing as a council, and we
As a result of
also as a result of the decision that we made in terms of rate input from community and the consultation that we did with community as well around what the appetite they have to support these types of initiatives. Also just there's been a lot of recognition and thanks, but also noting that actually 5 million was put up by MFE's Essential Freshwater Fund, but 25% of the value of the works was contributed by private landowners on their own properties because they wanted to, and they invested that money themselves as well. So if we're thanking people, we also need to thank those private people that did want to put their money into these things. So that's important. So yeah, I wanted to formally and publicly thank first of all the Crown funding and then the private landowners that did do that. Next of all, Kati Hurirapa Runaka Ki Pukataraki, ORC, because we got heavily involved as well, and that wasn't me. That was our fantastic staff, one of whom has joined us from Vietnam because they're that passionate about this particular project. Unsurprisingly, Mel and Sarah here as well, Libby, and a whole lot of other people went to a planting day there for the staff that were involved, and a bit of a thank you to them. And there's a heap of ORC staff that have been involved offering in-kind support to the projects as well. And while I'm talking about that, I just, we need to thank Councillor Kevin Malcolm too for his relentless support of this project and, well, it's more than one project, but this particular area. And just, he's not able to be here today, but he would really, really want to have been here today. So a big thanks from him, I imagine, to everyone as well, but also to him for all the support that he's offered and time he's given up to. So as well to Rob, who's joined us today as well. It looks like you're in Vietnam as well, Rob, but you're not, I'm thinking. Anyway, great commitment and thanks for all the work that you've done. It's been noted often how fantastic you've been in this. To all the volunteers as well that have got in behind this, well done. To a diversity of community from all the different types of landowners, from forestry, farming, urban, everyone got involved, which is fantastic to see as well, and more to do as well. But I think you sometimes can't put a value on these things as well. Yep, that's a lot of money, the 5 million. You can also see tangible results like Councillor Wilson said, but the bringing together a community, building resilience, all of those things that will spin off that in terms of knowing each other better, being able to go to each other, utilise each other for all of those agencies involved as well. I often come back to it, but working on one of the catchment groups that I did in the past, the police would say they noticed a big difference from doing this type of work. Just that fabric of society being built that what can break down, especially in hard times, and this has been a hard time. It's really, really crucial. And that spark of positivity that goes well beyond this catchment, inspiring others and making it sort of more normal to, you know, work together and invest your own money even in this instance. And yeah, just the good outcomes and good vibes that come from that. So yeah, sorry I've spoken for quite a long time, I know, but it is a momentous occasion that we're marking these projects, and I just wanted to give it some of the kudos that it deserves as well. I don't know how to add something that formally thanks the right people because there's so many of them, but if I could dream that up, I'd be doing that. And if we can stretch our minds to how best to do that and whether we can formally do that, we will. So come back to me on that one. So yeah, we're just noting the report and noting the work has been completed. Got the mover and the seconder already. We recorded that, haven't we, Kylie? And anyone else needing to speak? No, we'll put it all in favour. Aye, against, carried. Thanks very much. Thank you, everyone. Next paper, 10.7 is our big one that we look forward to each year. It is the annual return of inactive subsidiaries.
Do you want me to come up or are you guys?
Probably not.
Perfect.
But thanks for being here anyway.
Happy to see.
Councillor Laws is really keen to move this
No, I'm really
one.
keen to second it.
Sorry, I weren't fast enough. Councillor Wilson, did you move it?
Yeah, I did. I'm very happy to.
Great, okay.
I know staff we were trying to get away at 5.
Councillor Laws is seconding it. Any questions? People should be familiar with this one now. No, we'll put it then. All in favour? Aye, against, carried. Thank you very much. That brings us to a close. Fantastic. Parakia kia tau te rangi Māori ki runga i nei iwi o te ao. Thanks everyone.
Richard.